Why do I keep calling them heroes when they're not here? They're actually criminal, but in my mind they're my babies, so I should not be calling them heroes. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I did manage to read in the month of March. I got into one series of books and I became so obsessed with this. I kept talking about it all over my Instagram. If you are following me on Instagram, you will see a pattern growing. I was talking all about that series and I'm going to be giving you a little hint. The adaptation for this series is dropping by the end of April and I did not want to get into the show without reading the source material, and I am so happy that I finally did. This series has been on my TBR for so long and I did not know why I kept pushing it back and adding books, but in my defense, the books that I read were so much better than this series. I'm going to be talking about all of this in details later on, but without further ado, and this ring light, it's really getting on my nerves. I cannot have it in front of me because it keeps reflecting on my glasses, as you can see, and this is like the compromise I could make, so it's going to be reflected on my window, which is really bothering me, but we're going to not dwell on that. Without further ado, let's get into the book that I read in the month of March. First, I'm going to be starting with a book that I started in the end of February, but I did manage to read till like the first week in March, and it is The Outsider by Stephen King. I had so much high hopes for this book. I kept seeing it all over my Instagram, all over social media, and especially after it was in this new series in HBO and I saw the trailer and I was like, wow, this sounds really interesting. And Stephen King actually has never disappointed me, but there's something with this book did not hit the mark. By like the last third, I did not care actually about what's going to be happening because the case was solved in the middle of the book. So the last third was just like our main characters trying to piece things together. I started talking about this book without telling you what the story. Well, the story is about a murder that takes place in a small town, and this is a very atrocious murder. There's a kid involved and he was sexually assaulted and then killed, and it was really graphic, and all the DNA and the clues are hinting to one person, and the police were really sure that this person was the responsible one, but that suspect came out with an alibi that he cannot. It was a solid alibi, and it was really complexing because no person can be in two places at the same time. So it has some supernatural elements, and I think you can already guess what's actually happening before even reaching half of the book. So the pacing was really boring and it did not have to be this big. I think it could be like 100 pages less. I had really high hopes for this one. I enjoyed the writing, but as I said, by the last like 100 pages or 200 pages, I did not care because the case was already solved. I gave this one like 4 stars, 3 stars, I cannot remember. It was not the strongest book by Stephen King, but I am still on the hunt on a good thriller because all the thriller that I had read beside Cujo, I don't think Cujo is a thriller.
That is not correct.
Most of the thriller that I had read did disappoint me because they oversell themselves. This is the problem with thriller. They oversell themselves. You read the synopsis and you're like, wow, this is really going to be shocking. But the story is just, it became super dull, and the way the plot is explained and the way you get to know who actually done it is not that interesting, and you feel like you are robbed. And this actually happened with me with this book. The first half was great, was amazing. The characters were typical Stephen King type, but by the second half it was really boring, and the third part, the last third was just main boring, and I did not care actually because, as I said, the case was already solved. I am not thrilled to watch the show as I thought I'm going to be because I watched Thriller before getting into this book and I was like, wow, the thriller sounds really interesting, but actually the thriller is more interesting than the book, and this is really rare. 3.4 stars. I cannot remember actually what rating is, but I'm going to be assume it is 3.5. The next book is a series called the Shadow and Bone Trilogy. The first book is Shadow and Bone. The second book is Siege and Storm. The last book is Ruin and Rising. All three books are by Leigh Bardugo. I had seen these books all over Instagram, and when the trailer for the Shadow and Bone and the teaser for the Shadow and Bone adaptation was dropping on my Instagram, on all over social media, I was like, I'm not going to be getting into the show without reading the source material. I always wanted to read these books, and I did not know that this book actually existed. Well, I wanted to get into the Grishaverse, but I did not know that these books actually existed. I always thought that the Grishaverse started with the Six of Crows duology, which is super weird because the Six of Crows duology happens years after the event of the last book of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So what is actually the Shadow and Bone trilogy? This is set in a continent called Ravka, and it is inspired by Russian folklore, and the continent is separated with a fold called the Shadow Fold, tearing the continent apart. The Shadow Fold is really a dangerous place. It is populated by bloodthirsty creatures, and whoever try to go into it have to be super cautious about it. And we start with our main character called Alina Starkov. She works with the First Army of Ravka, who are the first line of defense of the kingdom. She is a map maker, and they have a mission to cross the Shadowfold and get into the other side of Ravka. So when she crossed the Shadowfold with her childhood friend slash crush, they were attacked by this creature who I forgot their names. And her childhood friend called Mal, was attacked. She has burst into light, which made us realize that she has the power of the sun. She did not know that she has this power, and she is the miracle, the only person who is going to be taking down this fold. So she is taken to the palace to be trained as a Grisha and to join the second army. I have a video planned to talk about the three books, so I'm going to be giving a really short summary about each book. The first book is following Alina Starkov as she is trying to understand her power. She is trying to see another side of Ravka, and the whole world is setting their hopes on her for her to take down the Shadowfold. I really love this one. I love the world building. I am not a big fan of the main characters. I was really interested into the second characters. This is the first book. By the second book, I actually forgot what the second book is, but we are introduced to my favorite character, and I'm not going to be talking about it because it is spoilers. I really love this one because of the second character, otherwise this book is going to be super boring. Alina was not the strongest female character that you actually should look up to. I think this was written in a time when Hunger Games, Divergent, and The Maze Runner was all the rage, and young adult fantasy was coming to light, so it is kind of it has a lot of tropes that I don't like, which is friend to lovers. It also has the trope of I don't believe that I can save the world, but I am going to be saving the world. And the way that Alina Starkov was always undermining herself, undermining her powers, and trying to show that she is just a normal girl and she does not have to have all this attention on her, and she just doesn't believe in herself. And I don't think that's a good thing to have in a young adult books and the young adult series, because this is destined for girls, this is destined for people in a really young age, and we don't want to raise another generation of girls who are not believing in themselves. I have a lot of issues with the book. I'm going to be talking about this more in the video that I have planned for reading all the books in the Grishaverse. By the last book, I think we can see a little bit of improvement, character improvement on Alina's side. Another thing that I just didn't like about the series is that I would love it if this book was sold from a third person perspective and not from Alina's perspective, because being inside Alina's mind is really tiring and it makes you feel like you don't actually know who Alina is. She is always hesitant, she doesn't believe in herself. You think that after spending 3 books inside her head that you're going to be understanding her character more, but the thing is, actually no one knows who she is beside being the Sun Summoner, the Saint, and the Soldier that we know. We don't know actually what's going inside her mind, and we don't know actually who she is as a person. I am not a big fan of the ending. This is the last book from the Rising. I said that I'm not going to be talking about the books a lot, but I have a lot of things to say about this series, because as much as I love the world building, I love the magic system, I love the hierarchy between inside the second army and the first army, and I love the richness of all the countries that are in Ravka or in the other continent or the southern continent. Hopefully in the video that I have planned, I'm going to be talking about more about the characters, about the world building, the setting, the things that I love, the things that I'm not. This is original series. I think I gave the first book 3 stars. I gave the first book 3 stars. The second book, I think it was like 4 stars because of some characters that I really loved reading about. The last book, I think I gave it a 5 stars, which is surprising because I don't know. I actually don't know why I gave this one 5 stars, if I'm not mistaken, because it is either 5 stars or 4 stars. I think the reason why the rating for this book was really high was because of the side characters, because they were more interesting than the main character, even though that we don't see more flesh out sides from them, because it is all like told from Alina's perspective, so they are Alina's something, you know what I mean? They are not like flesh and blood people that get to talk about themselves. And oh, I forgot something. The Darkling. I have a lot of things to say about the Darkling. I think we're going to be keeping it for another video, because I have a lot of thoughts to say about the Darkling, about the relationship between him and Alina. I'm not going to be talking about it because I am saving it for another video. Next, and we are still in the Grishaverse, Exclusive Crows. I adored this book. I love this book, and can we just take a moment to appreciate how late Bardugo writing style has improved compared to the original trilogy, because this one, you feel like it is written by another author, because the writing style changed, the pacing was perfect, the characters were chef kiss. I could not pick a favorite because all the main characters were amazing. I love them so much. I am a huge fan of the found family trope. I love the found family, and when you have some criminal who are unlikely to make friendship between them, and then you see them that they have formed some kind of an alliance, not actually a family, but like some alliance, like I can tolerate being with you, but I am not going to be risking my neck for you. It's not set in Ravka, it is set in an island in a city called Katterdam, and we have 6 criminals, we have 6 unlikely heroes who are tasked to go inside Fjorden, which is the country that exists in the northern border of Ravka, and they have to free a person that has made a discovery that will going to change the way that the world see Grisha. We have Kazbreaker, we have Inaj, Gaffa, we have Nina Zinnik, a Grisha that live in Kasserdam. We have Matthias Helver, who is a Fjorden in a convict prisoner. We have Jesper. Our 6 main characters are going to be breaking into the most unbreakable place in the universe to free a prisoner, which sounds like a suicide mission, but it is done perfectly. And I love heist books. I love heist movies. I have been watching them since I was a kid. I remember when I watched The Italian Job, I really loved it. Seeing a heist set in a fantasy book is just perfect. I loved it so much, and I give this one 5 stars. It was like, if I could give it more than 5 stars, I could give it for more than 5 stars. And actually, just thinking about it, I think I can give it more than 5 stars, because who makes the rule? I mean, I can give it more than 5 stars because I love this so much. I am actually currently reading the second book in the duology, which is Crooked Kingdom, and I am loving it so much. Reading this one made me realize that I need more heist book in my life, because it's just checks all the boxes. A heist book set in a fantasy world with unlikely heroes. The writing is so great, the pacing is perfect, and just this 400 pages feels like reading a 200 pages book, because I just needed more of my 6 crow babies. So yeah, these are the books that I did manage to read in the month of March. Not a big pile. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it with a friend, and check my Instagram. I will see you in another video. Bye!